Hey, what's up? I'm Channel Pup Fanboy Supervillain, back at it again with another ranking video because Lord knows you guys like those. This time we are ranking every main vocal theme in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, from worst to best, and buckle in because there are 35 of these bad boys. And I'm no music critic, so like the commentary on this one is gonna be pretty ghastly. If you love Sonic and love talking all things Sonic, you are in the right place. Be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already. And this video, like many of my videos, is brought to you thanks to the help of my patrons, who keep the lights on here at Pup Studios. Huge thank you to them. If you want to find out how you can become a patron, the Patreon link is in the description below. Thank you very much. Okay, so the criteria for this is that it must serve as the central theme of the game, or show, or movie, or whatever. So it's not going to be like It Doesn't Matter representing Sonic Adventure on this list. No, it's gotta be Open Your Heart, Live and Learn, those kinds of tracks. And hey, why don't you start making your own lists in the comment below? I'd love to see them. In at number 35 is Sonic X from Sonic X. Now wait! I am not talking about Gotta Go Fast or Sonic Drive. I am talking about Sonic X. This is the theme of Sonic X here in the UK. This is what we grew up on. There's always been a conversation about the dubs kind of ruining the soundtrack to Sonic X, but we didn't even get a good opening theme music. Now, full disclosure, just because this is at the bottom of the list, that doesn't mean it's terrible, because it really isn't. I just have such a hard time remembering the lyrics. The backing track is okay, but as far as main Sonic vocal themes go, yeah, this one you can tell it's kind of lazy, kind of aimed much more at kids. Sonic music is generally better than this, which is why it's at the bottom. In at 34 is Sonic Speed Riders by Rumblebee, the theme of Sonic Riders, the first one anyway. And again, it's not terrible. None of the songs on here are terrible. This one I would just mainly describe as being kind of noisy. Sounds like it's being played in a very echoey bathroom. There's nothing really catchy about it. It's more just a vibe, more just kind of an atmosphere, and it goes well with the animation at the start of Sonic Riders, but that's the best I can really say about this one. In at number 33 is Race to Win by Tony Harnell from Sonic Rivals 2. And yeah, maybe a bit of a hot take because I know that people really do like this one, but for me, it insists upon itself. It's like the music equivalent of your kid relative insisting on telling you all about his new toy. And I mean absolutely no disrespect to Tony Harnell when I say this, because he is a terrific singer, but in this song it sounds like he's trying to hold back a sneeze. This one is kind of the epitome of Sonic vocal tracks that sound like they belong in toy commercials. So yeah, to be honest, don't really care much for Race to Win. In at number 32 is The Fastest Thing Alive from Sonic the Hedgehog, the animated series. And if you think its placement on this list means it's bad, then you are mistaken. I think this song kind of bangs. It is dated as hell. This is ultimately what every vocal track for a cartoon sounded like in the 90s. But it has a really sweet drive-in bass line. The vocalist is giving it his all. There's a reason why Sonic fans are humming this one in their heads years later.
He's the fastest thing alive!
In at number 31 is Sonic Underground from Sonic Underground. Yeah, okay, so Sonic Underground, it's pretty universally accepted. It is not as good as the Sonic the Hedgehog Saturday morning cartoon. In fact, it's not very good at all. But its opening credits theme kind of slaps. Maybe even harder than The Fastest Thing Alive. Once again, it's incredibly dated. It is a 90s Saturday morning cartoon intro if I ever heard one. But it's definitely catchy. And that spoken word verse by Queen Alina? Fucking chills, dude.
I long for my children, but I have to wait. To act too soon could seal their fate.
In at number 30 is Speed Me Up by Wiz Khalifa, featuring Ty Dolla $ign, Lil Yachty, and Sueko the Child. And it's gotta be said, in 2020, it was kinda crazy to see this many big names in the music industry working on a Sonic vocal theme. But I think this can best be described as the musical equivalent to a glass of water. Just a very tepid song. It's fine. It's not bad in the slightest. It's completely inoffensive. But it doesn't bang, it doesn't fuck, and it doesn't slap. I just remember this moment of, yes, the Sonic games known for their incredible music, and the Sonic movies known for their just perfectly okay fit-for-purpose music, at best. I do enjoy some rap music from time to time, but this one is just, it's fine. Now, comparatively, my number 29 pick might be a bit of a hot take, but let's just run it. See what I did there? Yeah, Run It by Jelly Roll. This was one where, before I saw the film, I was like, really? This is it? This is the theme of this film? After all, this film is based on Sonic Adventure 2, which has the ever-iconic Live and Learn as its main theme. And this film is getting Run It. Kind of like a little country EDM fusion. The kind of thing you would have heard on the radio like every morning back in 2015. But upon seeing it within the context of the movie's ending, that big final shot of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles running off into the sunset, I do think this actually worked quite well. And it is fairly catchy, to be fair. It gives that rousing feeling of friendship, and yeah, it's fine, it's okay. In at number 28, and this might seem kind of sacrilege because it's a Crush 40 track, but Green Light Ride from Team Sonic Racing. I don't know what it is about Green Light Ride, but it just never grabbed me the way other Crush 40 tracks did. And you'll see later on this list that I adore Crush 40, but Green Light Ride just sounds like Crush 40 on autopilot to me. The lyrics are all stuff we've kind of heard before. The general melody, the way it goes, just sounds kind of derivative of other Crush 40 tracks, but it also sounds oddly underproduced. Like this was recorded in someone's bedroom and wasn't quite mixed properly. There is no brightness to this track, it just sounds very boxy. It's alright, but I'm not like bringing the house down with this one, which is kind of especially disappointing considering it's a Crush 40 track. In at number 27 is You Can Do Anything by Casey Rankin and Keiku Utoku. Sorry if I'm butchering any of these names here. Now, this is kind of the OG Sonic vocal theme, so hats off to it, it's pretty cool. We're now kind of at a part in the list where the order is just going to be based on I just happen to like these other tracks better rather than this falling short in any kind of way. I enjoy the rap verses, they're a lot of fun. The lead vocals are really nice, the instrumental is really cool, it has that kind of very old school sort of 90s Sonic vibe to it, but it's really at this part on the list just because I like the other tracks on this list better. In at number 26 is Gotta Go Fast from Sonic X. This is the US main theme of the show. And while not as good as many of the tracks that you would hear in the games that the show's obviously based on, this is still a really solid opening track for the show. It's very energetic, very early 2000s, aggressively early 2000s in fact. And it does a nice job at kind of characterizing the show, characterizing Sonic, telling us a bit about kind of his overall mentality. And this is where that age-old misconception that Sonic has the catchphrase of gotta go fast comes from. But it's canon now. In at number 25 is Escape from the City, the Cash Cash remix from Sonic Generations. Now, okay, maybe I cheated this a little bit because Sonic Generations doesn't really have a main vocal theme, but this was the most present track in all of the marketing for this game. When you think kind of the main theme of Sonic Generations, this is the one. Now, I tell you, if this were the original Escape from the City, this would be way near the top. Escape from the City is one of the most infectiously catchy tracks in video game history. It's fantastic. And this remix is perfectly fine. This version is meant to be kind of applied to classic Sonic, and what I do find interesting is the overall music direction for classic Sonic in Sonic Generations. It is once again Jun Senoue in charge, and it's the best job he's done with composing music, or not composing, but mixing music for classic Sonic. But even then, it's not really accurate to what classic Sonic music really sounded like in the 90s. The 90s classic Sonic music used to go more for kind of a New Jack Swing, sort of silk shirt R&B style, whereas this is more just kind of modern bubblegum pop. I would have loved to have heard like a Boyz II Men style remix of Escape from the City. I actually made one for Live and Learn just recently that you can check out. I'll put a link in the pinned comment or something. It's one of those instances where I don't love the genre, but everything that makes City Escape great in the first place still shines through here, which is why it still kind of bangs. I also gotta say, I really do love the little nod to Endless Mine at the start of the second verse. That was a really nice decision that I would hope to hear in other remixes of Escape from the City.
Danger is lurking around every turn. Trust your feelings, got to live and learn. I roll with some luck that I'll make it through. Got no other options, only one thing to do.
In at number 24 is Sonic, from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog SatAM if you lived in mainland Europe. Yeah, fun fact, did you know that Sonic the Hedgehog and Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog had a completely different theme song for both shows over in mainland Europe? Probably the most well-known version is the French version, which is sung by a child, but I personally prefer the Italian one, which is sung by an adult. In fact, in 2022, they actually got the kid that sung the French version to do a cover of it all those years later. I really like the instrumentation of this one. That backing track just screams 90s Sonic to me. It's very nostalgic and I didn't even grow up with it. Sounds very reminiscent to Sonic CD's Japanese soundtrack. 90s pop with a couple of new jack elements in there. Now, if we could just get like an English or Japanese version, we're in business. In at number 23 is A New Day from Sonic Rush by Hideki Naganuma. Now, I gotta say, I really do enjoy what Hideki Naganuma brings to the Sonic the Hedgehog musical landscape. Again, Sonic Rush had a much more urban vibe than the majority of other Sonic games, and I think Hideki Naganuma really matched that. His music incredibly energetic, with kind of like an electronic funk vibe with maybe a bit of an industrial hit to it. And he used a lot of samples in his music as well, which is not something you always hear in Sonic music. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't adore the vocal samples in the majority of the Sonic Rush soundtrack, but in this instance, it's pretty wild that apparently the lyrics to A New Day were originally sung by a male, and that they've been pitched up and remixed to the point where it now sounds like a lady. Impressive stuff. And this theme really fits the bill well for Sonic Rush. I feel like this is probably the kind of music that plays in Sonic's head when he is facing the threat of Dr. Robotnik and his universe collapsing and meeting Blaze the Cat. He's probably just got this happy little tune playing in his head. So I dig it. It characterizes Sonic really nicely. In at number 22 is Sonic Heroes. Now, if this were What I'm Made Of from the same game, it would be a lot higher up on this list, because What I'm Made Of is definitely the better of the two Crush 40 tracks in this game. But Sonic Heroes is still an anthem for a reason. There is a reason why people remember this song very fondly, and probably this song is part of the reason why people remember Sonic Heroes very fondly, because I personally can't imagine any other reason. I really, really do not want to continue that live stream series, by the way. It's a great theme song for Sonic Heroes, though. It gets the overall party atmosphere right. It's an incredibly energetic track. A little bit more chill than other Crush 40 tracks at the time. Like, compare this to Open Your Heart and Live and Learn, and it's a much more chill track. Which works because Sonic Heroes' story was of much lower intensity than the previous two Sonic Adventure games that came before it. Also worth noting that this one is more explicitly about Sonic and the game. It's all in the lyrics. Which isn't my preference, but still, I think it works well. This is a great track. I can see why people love this one. It's not one of my favorite Crush 40 tracks by any stretch, but it is still a great theme. In at number 21 is Sonic Drive from Sonic X, the Japanese version, by Hideki Taketori and Hironobu Kageyama. I think I have that right. Once again, like the American version, you've got an aggressively early 2000s rock track, and I really dig that. And it's also one of those Sonic tracks that is much more focused around Sonic, like the lyrics are a bit more explicitly about Sonic himself. But if Gotta Go Fast was a very energetic track, Sonic Drive puts it to shame in that department. This is like a shot of pure sugar straight into the bloodstream. It's energetic, it really represents Sonic's kind of boundless confidence very well, but it's also kind of heroic in parts as well. Particularly at the song's bridge, that is the part that sounds very heroic to me. In at number 20 is A New Venture from Sonic Rush Adventure by Tomoya Atani. Now, A New Venture is probably mostly remembered as being a bit of a meme because you could play it during the Perfect Chaos boss fight in Sonic Generations, and it was just fun to find areas where this song would not fit. This is probably one of the most upbeat, relaxed tracks that a Sonic game has ever had. It's still energetic, it's still fast-paced, but it has a holiday vibe. There's definitely kind of a optimistic travel vibe to this song. Bit of a hot take, I generally prefer Otani's soundtrack for Sonic Rush Adventure to Naganuma's soundtrack for Sonic Rush. Otani's soundtrack still takes some clear inspiration from Naganuma's soundtrack. There's a clear attempt to kind of emulate that musical style. I just prefer Otani as a composer overall. A New Venture is catchy, pretty unsuspecting, and fits the fairly low-stakes adventure that is Sonic Rush Adventure really nicely. What can I say? It's a great track. In at number 19 is Fist Bump by Tomeo Otani and Douglas Robb of Hoobastank. This was the main theme of Sonic Forces, and I gotta tell you, at the time this came out, this was one of the most exciting things in the world because it had been a good few years since a Sonic game last had a vocal theme. Heck, this was the first time since 2011 that we'd even had a vocal track in a Sonic game. There was just this sense that we were so back with this one until we actually played the game. But that aside, Fist Bump is probably one of the cornier Sonic vocal tracks. Like, this is really corny. But corn doesn't have to be a bad thing. I do enjoy a bit of corn every now and then. This also ends up sounding quite toy commercially as well, which is something that I have kind of pitted against previous tracks on this list, but I gotta say, I think this one just really slaps. It's another one like Sonic Heroes where it feels more like an anthem than anything else. It's a high-energy track that conveys that sense of fighting back against the Eggman Empire, and it gets you pumped to really get into the action, and every time this would play in the game, whether it was a double boost section or that null space stage, which was the highlight of the game, it always felt like this big event. And I mean, that speaks to how good this song is as well, given that, like, null space wasn't really null space, there was the disappointment of that, but I couldn't be disappointed for long as soon as I heard the solo for Fist Bump start playing. It's corny, it's goofy, but I really do like this track. In at number 18 is You're My Hero from Sonic 3D Blast by Richard Jacques. This comes from that Sega Saturn era where Sonic music always seemed to be kind of power ballads. But if it fucks, and this does indeed fuck. I'm guessing this song is written from the perspective of the Flickies or something. And it's funny because the vocals sound more like the kind of thing you'd expect to hear in, say, Sonic CD. Sounds like the kind of thing that could be kind of sung from Amy's perspective. Of course, we would go on to hear what an Amy theme sounds like in Sonic Adventure and realize that her little inner monologue song is the ramblings of a maniac.
I do understand the feelings of a person. So cute. I had to shave it.
You're My Hero would make a nice theme for Amy. You know, one that isn't absolutely insane. But really just the instrumental here absolutely slaps. I love the instrumental to this track. Crazy that Sonic 3D Blast of all games would have a vocal track this good. This is of course also the track that plays over the credits, and it feels like you're getting a warm hug for all the work you just did. I also love how this track uses the leitmotif of the title theme as well. It's a really great track, okay? Hell yeah. In at number 17 is Supersonic Racing from Sonic R by Richard Jacques and TJ Davis. And these two make for a powerful duo when it comes to music. When I saw this track performed live by both of them at the Sonic Symphony in London, it was an incredibly uplifting experience. TJ Davis, what more needs to be said, her vocals are incredible. But I think this is like one of the first of the Sonic vocal tracks to have that anthem quality to it, you know? A track that really gets you pumped up for the adventure ahead. And then, like with Fist Bump, you actually get to the adventure ahead and realize, it ain't the best. It's a super catchy track that really captures the competitive nature of the game. So yeah, Supersonic Racing goes hard. In at number 16 is Look-alike from Sonic the Hedgehog the Movie by Kamikaze Bitch. I'm not joking, this song is actually made by Kamikaze Bitch, and if that isn't funny enough, this is the only Sonic vocal track to include the word poo. Now obviously the lyrics of this song refer to things that kind of are alike but also opposite, so it applies to Sonic and Hyper Metal Sonic. Now this is one where the full version of the track was only discovered a few years ago. Once thought lost to the sands of time, and it's a terrific track. I'm glad they found this. The Sonic OVA movie really had a really cool sort of 90s techno soundtrack to it, and this was the perfect theme for that film and makes for a great theme for any adventure with Sonic and Metal Sonic. So hell yeah, Look-alike fucks. In at number 15 is Sonic Boom by Spencer Nielsen, and this is kind of the original all-American Sonic vocal track, and you can definitely tell the difference between the Western sensibilities of a track like Sonic Boom versus the Japanese sensibilities of a track like You Can Do Anything. I wouldn't say it's any more or less energetic than You Can Do Anything, but it does have more of a rock vibe to it. Less a rousing song of encouragement, more a mission statement. And it's no wonder this track has achieved kind of anthem status, as Sonic Boom effectively ends up feeling like a battle cry. And I think the best version of this track, to me anyway, is the Crush 40 and Cash Cash version that came around the time of Sonic Generations, but for some odd fucking reason was not the main theme of that game. And if it was, it would be way near the top of this list. And I have no idea why it wasn't the main theme of Sonic Generations. Are you kidding me? It perfectly encapsulates the eras of classic Sonic with the fact that it is Sonic Boom, Crush 40 being the Dreamcast era, Cash Cash being the modern era, it makes so much sense. But it wasn't meant to be. Still, as the first real, Sonic vocal track for America, well, for a game that is, Sonic really did explode onto the scene with this one. This is terrific. In at number 14 is Night of the Wind. Do not shoot me. Do not shoot me for the fact that Night of the Wind isn't at the absolute tippity top of the list, alright? I understand people adore this track, and I think it's a fantastic track as well. Do not get me wrong. Preference does play a role in why this isn't as high as maybe a lot of you would put it. But okay, the rock of Crush 40 meets kind of old school violin, and again it has that kind of very battle cry vibe to it that Sonic Boom does. And I won't lie that while I might not love this song as much as a lot of other people do, at the Sonic Symphony or any live event where this is played, when the crowd are just singing along with this, like it's a fucking battle cry, I feel it. This is definitely one that has anthem status. But it's kind of perfect in that, imagine, your typical sort of pastiches of, the sword and sorcery kind of genre, what you kind of expect to hear from that kind of musical genre, and then add Sonic to the mix, and you end up with something like this. It is a terrific track, do not get it twisted. The only reason it's here is just that there are other songs that I like better than this one, but we are well and truly in the good crop of Sonic vocal tracks now. We have been for quite some time. In at number 13 is Stars in the Sky by Kid Cudi, for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie. And of the 3 big screen Sonic movies that we've gotten so far, 2 definitely has the best main theme. Stars in the Sky is not really like any other Sonic vocal track in that it's not like a rock track, it's not like a massively high energy beat or anything like that. This is much more of a sort of a dance pop track, which has a nice sort of driving quality to it, which does kind of match that Sonic energy in its own little way. But they took such an outside the box approach to this track in a way that kind of feels like something that's never been done before for Sonic vocal tracks. This feels like if, say, Sonic 2 the video game had a vocal track attached to it. It really matches that sort of classic Sonic vibe in a really cool way. There is an extended version of this as well where Lil Nas X drops some vocals on the bridge, and that version's even better in my opinion. But if this was kind of the music genre that movie Sonic wanted to go forward with, I think I would have been in full agreement with this. In at number 12 is The Flames of Disaster from Knuckles, performed by Julian Barrett and Michael Bolton.
I will fan the flames of disaster.
And for copyright and a lack of covers, that's all you're getting to that one. The Knuckles TV series might be by far the worst thing in the Sonic movie franchise, and one of the weaker aspects of the entire Sonic franchise proper, but I can't deny that The Flames of Disaster fucks hard. It's a rock opera musical number. It's super high energy, it's really catchy. It tells us Knuckles' backstory in a really corny way. It's also the only vocal track in the Sonic movies so far to be rock-themed, with the exception of Live and Learn, which was really more built into the score than it was a track. Not much to really say about this one, it's just a really cool song that I do find myself listening to outside of the Knuckles TV series, and I mean, even in the context of the show, this was really cool. This was one of the highlights of the show. In at number 11 is All Hail Shadow, the symphonic version from Shadow Generations. Now, it's funny because they played this exact version of All Hail Shadow at the Sonic Symphony in London before the release of Shadow Generations, and none of us had any idea that this was the final boss theme for Shadow Generations. All Hail Shadow has always been an absolute banger track. My favorite version is still the Magnify version. I just love that little guitar bridge after the first chorus, and how kind of dirty it sounds, but this version here is definitely my second favorite version of this track. It's basically the Crush 40 version of the track, backed by a symphony orchestra, and it sounds big, it sounds grand, it's perfect for that final showdown between Shadow and Neo Devil Doom. And it really speaks to Shadow's conviction as a character. He might be very introverted, but he's still very confident in himself and his goals and his beliefs. And this track really captures that raw power, as Shadow foils Black Doom's plans once and for all. It was an awesome track the first time, it was an awesome track the second time, and the third time, it is just as awesome as ever. My favorite is still the Magnify version. Until they can get that guitar bridge into any of the other versions, that one is still the reigning champion. But this is still a really great version of that track that I loved hearing live. In at number 10 is Open Your Heart by Crush 40, which is the main theme of Sonic Adventure. Now, this was an era-defining track. This completely changed the rules of what Sonic music is. It was Sonic Adventure where rock really started to define the Sonic franchise in a big way. And our introduction to this new generation of Sonic music being that little FMV cutscene intro at the start of Sonic Adventure, only for this song to finally then be reprised for the final boss, amazing. And just how loudly this would scream at you from your TV when you booted up Sonic Adventure, because they knew they had a track that was 10 times better than it had any right to be, so we're just like, hey, fuck it, audio mixing be damned, turn it way up. And it fits Sonic beautifully, from Johnny Gioeli's vocals to Jun Sanoi's shredding on the guitar to that very high energy driving quality to it, but I also like that it's not overly fast tempo either. I just hear this track and I'm just like, hell yeah. This is a hell yeah track. In at number 9 is Ungravitify from Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. There's a very sort of cold dystopian intensity to this track that I can't quite put my finger on. I don't know what to even call that. But this is one of those Sonic tracks that sounds very serious. And I love that about this. I could imagine this song playing in like a Blade Runner movie or something. And of course that makes sense because like Sonic Riders Zero Gravity did kind of take place in kind of like a Futurama world, I guess. Also the bass line to this one is just, ugh, yeah, hell yeah. Just hell yeah. In at number 8 is His World by Zebrahead. Hell yeah, this song bangs. They say ass in this song, which was not a word I was allowed to say until I was like 7 years old or something. So that makes this song really cool and epic. Now the lyrics are very toy commercial. It's like someone is describing to you their favorite comic. But His World is such a great hero track, and its incredibly catchy chorus definitely achieve it that patented anthem status. And what's interesting is like what Night of the Wind was doing, His World kinda did first, combining the rock with the violin and orchestral elements, which is always a hoot. I will admit, this isn't the best version of His World, though. The main version that is the main theme of the game, not my favorite version. The Crush 40 version is awesome as well, but my favorite version is the Zebrahead version? Yeah, they did like an alternate version, which I just thought was that little bit cooler. Still though, His World was kind of like the Sonic theme for a whole generation. Like, the Dreamcast kids, they grew up with It Doesn't Matter as Sonic's theme, and then the people who grew up with like the Xbox 360, I guess, had His World as like Sonic's theme. And I think His World is absolutely a worthy successor. Also, making Sonic's theme the theme of the game kind of just feels like a no-brainer. In at number 7 is Free by Chris Madden. And everything I really liked about Ungravitify from Sonic Riders Zero Gravity is present in this track here for Sonic Free Riders. While Sonic Free Riders is not a worthy successor to any video game ever made, it is absolutely crippled by the Kinect, this track was definitely a worthy successor to Ungravitify. It's another track that is like dead serious and competitive. You've got a few more electronic elements subtly added into what is otherwise a rock track, and it's another one of those Sonic tracks that feels like a real mission statement, you know? I don't know if I'd call this anthem status, but I would call it mission statement status. It bangs, what more need be said? Well, it deserves a better game for starters. In at number 6 is Reach for the Stars by Tomoya Atani and Cash Cash. Once again, we're taking a new approach to the Sonic vocal track, going for something that is upbeat and energetic, but a bit more pop-centric. And it fits Sonic wonderfully. This track was the defining track of the 2010s era of Sonic, and even if that wasn't a great era for the franchise, this track is good enough to make me reflect on the better sides of that era. Sonic Colors was the game to say that Sonic games didn't need to be so self-serious and high intensity, and while that high intensity drama is usually my preference when it comes to Sonic, Sonic Colors did make a case as a nice little detour from that, I guess. And Reach for the Stars fits the bill perfectly. It is nothing like any Crush 40 track we'd heard before, it's nothing like His World. It's a bright, happy, inspirational track, fun and low intensity, a little more akin to, say, a new venture from Sonic Rush Adventure, except nothing like that track at all. Obviously, I don't reflect too fondly on Sonic Colors' mission statement of throwing out the high-intensity action of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. And I definitely don't like what was done in a writing sense to Sonic Colors either, but this track definitely demonstrated that there are areas where a more carefree Sonic can actually thrive, as it's a super catchy track, it's got a great vibe to it, and I guess we'll also factor in Sonic Colors Ultimate here as well. It would probably be in the same position. The Reach for the Stars remix from that game is even better. I love the use of the piano in there. It makes it feel that bit more magical and, well, colorful. It's also really cool that the Sonic Colors leitmotif made its return in One Way Dream in Sonic Frontiers as well, kind of making this like a theme for Sonic now. And you know what? I think this is a good pick for that. In at number 5 is I'm Here, which is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from Reach for the Stars. If Reach for the Stars was a low-intensity track, I'm Here is about as high intensity as it is gonna get. But yes, this is I'm Here, the theme of Sonic Frontiers, by Tomoe Otani and Mary Kirk Holmes. Sonic Frontiers really matured up the musical landscape of Sonic, with much more complex metal compositions than anything we'd really heard before, and I'm Here is no exception to that. You've got Otani rocking out on a 12-string, you've got orchestral elements in there, you've got key changes, and I'd imagine that this is probably a tremendously difficult song to sing at karaoke. But fortunately, Mary Kirk Holmes has the vocal range to pull this off. But I feel like a dick saying this. If this were the revisited version of I'm Here, this would be number 1. I think I'm Here Revisited from Final Horizons is the greatest Sonic vocal track ever made. Now, the reason I feel like an asshole for saying that is because no matter how good that new version of I'm Here is, I can't help but feel kind of like Mary Kirk Holmes was given the shit. Mary Kirk Holmes is the vocalist of 2 Octavia, which are quite a small band. So getting to work on Sonic Frontiers was probably kind of like their big break, only for that to be covered by Kellen Quinn of Sleeping with Sirens fame, which is a much more established band. So it's like we've taken the kind of up-and-comers and shifted them to one side, installed Sleeping with Sirens in its place, and now everyone's like, oh yeah, this is better. So I do feel kind of bad about that. Maybe Mary Kirk Holmes views it differently. Maybe it's all a matter of perspective. Maybe to Mary Kirk Holmes it's cool to hear that those lyrics that they wrote for this track are being sung by Kellen Quinn. I've got no idea, but I've got to imagine it probably stings a little bit. But I can't deny that I do prefer that revisited version. I think Kellen Quinn's vocal range is a better fit for this track than even Mary Kirk Holmes, who was already a good fit for this track. But with Kellen Quinn, it just sounds a little bit more effortless, I guess, for this track. And of course, the instrumental just goes insane in the revisited version as well. It's a much more energetic version of the track. It's also probably helped by association as well. Unfortunately, the Mary Kirk Holmes version of the track only plays on the very underwhelming Supreme fight, whereas the Kellen Quinn version of the track plays over the end fight from the Final Horizon DLC, which was a really cool finale. I guess it's just unfortunate optics, but I'm hoping that there's a future not only for Kellen Quinn in Sonic, but that there's also one for Mary Kirk Holmes as well. And even in its base version, I'm Here is still one of the greatest Sonic vocal tracks. In at number 4 is 7 Rings in Hand from Sonic and the Secret Rings by Rumblebee. And what a glow up for Rumblebee, actually. The last Rumblebee track we had on this list was Sonic Speed Riders all the way down at the bottom. And now here we are with 7 Rings in Hand, which some say is overplayed in Sonic and the Secret Rings, but I can't be mad because this song bangs. This song absolutely bangs. It's got that very high energy driving quality. It's a very serious track. It's got all that conviction in there, and it really feels like an anthem, a battle cry for Sonic. It's got all of it. It's got anthem, battle cry, mission statement, all of those little criteria that I've just made up recently are all here in this one. I know it's a hot take to say I prefer 7 Rings in Hand to Night of the Wind, but this song just fucks so hard. I cannot get enough of it, and if the game wants to keep replaying it to me, I'm there. I'm there for it. Dude, the soundtrack for Sonic and the Secret Rings is so good. Like, across the board, this is one of the best Sonic soundtracks ever. And it sucks that the game sucks. Why must it be this way? Alright, we're on the top 3 now. So, in at number 3. And golly gosh, if the music standard for this franchise were not so unbelievably high, this would make number 1 on any other list. But, in at number 3 is Live and Learn by Crush 40. Now, while I might not consider this to be the best vocal theme in Sonic history, it's definitely the most iconic, there's no two ways about it. Live and Learn is a ridiculously good track, more than worthy of any hard rock hall of fame. The guitar riff, iconic. The melody, iconic. The lyrics, iconic. The chorus, iconic. The solo, iconic. It is all iconic across the board. Helped even more so by what this song represents for the story as well. Shadow letting go of his revenge quest to team up with Sonic as these two sides, yin and yang, they come together and they save the world. It's the unification of good and evil, even Dr. Robotnik is on the team, and this song just fires off on all cylinders for that massive event. A song so iconic that even the Sonic movies had to lock in with this one. And they never locked in the previous movies, but for this one here, they knew they had something. They had to do something about this. Live and Learn is just too incredible not to represent in some capacity. And now, just to think, a whole new generation gets to grow up with Sonic 3 as a pivotal part of their childhood, and they're gonna remember that amazing song that played when Sonic and Shadow did the Super Dap Up. Fucking awesome. In at number 2 is I Am All of Me by Crush 40. This is the main theme of Shadow's first solo game all the way back in 2005. Shadow the Hedgehog, love it or hate it, it was a game that had absolute confidence and conviction in what it wanted to be. Live and Learn got to accompany one of the best Sonic games and one of the best Sonic stories. But I Am All of Me had to do quite a bit more heavy lifting. Shadow the Hedgehog 05 wishes it were Sonic Adventure 2, and it's not. I kinda like it. I mean, I think I kinda like it. Who knows, maybe I'll live stream it and suddenly hate it again. But I like everything that Shadow the Hedgehog 2005 represented. I just vibe with it completely. And this theme is absolutely perfect for that. If Sonic Heroes, the song that came immediately before this one, was a softer approach to that Crush 40 model of vocal track, this one's a harder approach. This one is all in. And it is no wonder that this has become an anthem for Shadow. It's super high energy, it's really fast-paced, it's got a really driving riff to it, and it is the kind of song that is just perfect for chanting along to it. Yep, it's a mission statement, it's an anthem, it is just the gold standard of Sonic vocal track, and it's awesome that a track like this comes from this franchise. And that's one of the main things I think about when I think of I Am All of Me, is just playing this song around people that have never played a Sonic game before, that are like, this is fire, what's it from? Like, oh, just you fucking wait until I tell you what this is from. Hell yeah. And in at number 1 as the best vocal theme in Sonic history, Endless Possibilities by Tomoyo Otani and Bowling for Soup. Now maybe I am a little biased, as this was the very first vocal track in a Sonic game that I'd ever heard. I had only played Sonic 1 and 2 and went from that to Sonic Unleashed. So I hadn't heard Live and Learn, I hadn't heard Open Your Heart, or His World, or Toot Toot Sonic Warrior. None of that. I'd heard none of it. This was my very first exposure to a Sonic vocal track. And what a note to begin on. It is really no wonder I became obsessed with Sonic after playing Sonic Unleashed. Think about it, you've just been on this really challenging but really enjoyable journey with Sonic and Chip, and this is the theme to play them out. Rather than a super high intensity track all about the stakes of the game, you've got more just kind of a love letter to this big, wonderful adventure you've just been on with Chip. It's a huge celebration of the game you've just played. The perfect track for any road trip mix. It's a super positive, happy, upbeat track as well. Which, now that I think about it, seems to have been Tomoyo Otani's kind of mission statement going into Sonic vocal tracks in the back end of the 2000s and 2010s. Happier songs that speak more to Sonic's love of adventure, rather than the high-intensity tracks you'd hear from Crush 40. And I think there's room in this world for both. Now I'm just gonna casually ignore that rap verse that's in here. It's not a good rap verse, but everything else here is absolute fire. I will scream my love of this track from the rooftops. It's always one of the highlights of any of the Sonic Symphony events, and also just the symphony version of this as well, with Nate Wants to Battle and the Symphony Orchestra backing it up. Great stuff. But I think this one really just defines Sonic as a character, his love for adventure, his love for the adventure he's just been on, and Sonic Unleashed was, for better or for worse, a game where you could really just kind of stop and smell the roses. You really soaked that adventure up with you, and this song does exactly that, especially with the little Polaroid photos that play during the end credits as well. A Sonic story in the games anyway has never felt kind of more humanized and personal, and this song fits that beautifully, and that's why it's my number 1. But what do you guys think? Are you done writing your rankings? Remember, it has to be themes. If I wanted to do just vocal tracks regular, I would have done that. Maybe I will do that. I probably will. I definitely will do that someday. Show me your lists. Make sure they're posted in the comment below. And, of course, what do you guys think? Comment below, discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below is the link to my Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to ad-free versions of these videos that you can download and watch anywhere, as well as exclusive content, and your name in the credits as well. A special shout out goes to the patrons in the $5 and above tiers. We have Seppo the Smith, Silver, Josh Strider, Grant Allen, Twilord, Coco210, Hey It's Classy, Ian, Joe Henshin, KB, RT0, Carlex, Hypes, Sad Goku, Dare Denny, SSS06, Kale Bennett, is Sonic ballin' in Speeding Ticket? Oh, he's ballin'. He's ballin'. I'm cooking. Ken K, Mr. SP, Cirrus the Skeptic, Biotin, and Vera Wild. Thank you, good folks, so much for your generosity, and to all of you at home, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Now get out of here.